My husband once looked me in the eye and called me worthless. That single word burned deeper than any insult I had ever heard in my life. It wasn't shouted in anger.
No.
He said it calmly, almost like a fact. Like I wasn't even worth raising his voice over. That moment shattered something inside me. But here's the part he didn't know. The same woman he dismissed as worthless would one day hold all the power. And soon, he would be the one begging. I'm Rachel, I'm 34 years old, and when I first met Steve, he was everything I thought I wanted. Handsome, ambitious, confident. He walked into a room, and people noticed him. I felt lucky that out of everyone, he chose me. Back then, he made me feel special, like I was the only person who mattered. We laughed, we dreamed together, and when he proposed, I didn't hesitate. I thought I had found a partner, someone who would love me no matter what. But marriage has a way of showing you the truth. The man I married slowly faded, or maybe he was never real to begin with. Over time, Steve grew colder, sharper with his words. Small sighs when dinner wasn't perfect. Mutters under his breath when the laundry wasn't folded fast enough. At first, I brushed it off. I told myself he was stressed, that he loved me underneath it all. But then the words grew harsher. Rachel, you're useless. Rachel, you're holding me back. And finally, that night when he looked at me with disgust and said it, you're worthless. It was like a knife to my chest. Imagine the man you built your life around, the man you trusted, reducing you to nothing in a single sentence. That night I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering if maybe he was right. Maybe I really was nothing. But deep down, a small voice inside me whispered otherwise. So I kept trying. I worked harder. I cooked meals I thought he'd like. I made sure the house was spotless. I even put my own career on hold so I could support his. He was in finance, always chasing the next promotion, obsessed with success. I thought if I gave up my dreams, it would make him happy. But it didn't. Nothing ever did. I started to feel like a ghost in my own home. My days were a blur of cleaning, cooking, waiting. He never noticed. He only noticed when something wasn't perfect. The sighs, the eye rolls, the sharp words, they became my soundtrack. One evening, after yet another argument, I locked myself in the bathroom and just sat on the floor. I stared at my reflection in the mirror. My face looked pale, my eyes tired, like I didn't even know the woman staring back at me. That night, I made myself a promise. If Steve ever broke me completely, I would find a way to rise stronger. He might not respect me, but I would never let him erase me. The first cracks in his perfect world showed up quietly. He started coming home later, snapping at me more than usual. I overheard him on the phone one night, whispering words like bad investment and client pulled out. He thought I didn't hear, but I did. Then I saw the bills piling up, the overdue notices he tried to hide in his briefcase. For the first time in years, I noticed fear in his eyes. Not the kind he directed at me, but real fear, the kind that comes when the ground beneath you is slipping away. The irony didn't escape me. The man who had called me worthless was crumbling, and he didn't even realize that I was watching every second of it. One night, I placed dinner on the table. He pushed the plate away. I don't need this, he muttered. But I didn't stay silent like I usually did. Steve, I said quietly, you can push me away all you want, but I'm not blind. I know what's happening. His face went pale. For the first time in a long time, he looked small, vulnerable, like the mask he wore every day had finally cracked. He opened his mouth, then shut it again. No words came out. That was the night I realized his empire was crumbling. And soon, the man who had broken me would be forced to come back to me. By the way, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel. But before I tell you how far Steve fell and how he ended up begging me for help, just know this. His darkest days were only beginning. Steve's downfall was like watching a storm roll in, slow at first, then suddenly tearing everything apart. The man who once strutted through life with his head high was unraveling in front of me. He lost his promotion. Then his boss cut his pay. The bills kept stacking up, and the phone wouldn't stop ringing with debt collectors on the other end. At night, he would sit at the kitchen table with his head in his hands. For years, he had made me feel small, powerless. Now, he looked powerless himself. One night, his voice cracked as he whispered, "Rachel, I don't know what to do. Everything's falling apart. Can you believe that?" Because I almost couldn't. This was the same man who had called me worthless, now looking at me like I was the only thing keeping him from drowning. I stood there, silent, just letting him sweat. For years, I had begged him for respect, for kindness, for even a little love. And now he was begging me. Eventually, he told me everything. He had lost nearly all of our savings. His investments had collapsed. He owed people money he couldn't pay back. And then he said the words I never thought I'd hear, "Rachel, I need your help." I almost laughed. Instead, I leaned closer and said, "Help? From me?" I thought I was worthless. The look on his face was something I'll never forget. His pride shattered in an instant. But here's the thing, I wasn't just going to walk away. No. I had something better in mind. Revenge doesn't always come with fire and fury. Sometimes it comes with quiet control. I told him I would help, but only on my terms. What Steve didn't know was that while he spent years calling me useless, I had been quietly saving. Every bit of money I could stash away from the allowance he gave me, every little side job I could sneak in, I kept it hidden. I built a safety net. For me, not for him. When he begged me to use that money to pay off his debts, I didn't say yes immediately. I made him earn it. From that day forward, everything changed. He had to cook. He had to clean. He had to listen to me when I spoke. Most of all, he had to apologize, not once, not halfway, but every single day until I believed he meant it. The same man who once rolled his eyes at me now asked, "What do you need, Rachel? How can I help you today?" And oh, how sweet it felt to see the tables turn. But here's the part he never expected. I didn't use my entire savings to rescue him. I paid off just enough of his debt to stop the collectors from circling. The rest, I kept tucked away for myself, because I knew one day I would leave. Months passed, and Steve shrank into a shadow of himself. His career never recovered. His reputation crumbled. And in the silence of our home, he finally admitted what I had known all along. "Rachel," he whispered one night, "I was wrong. You're not worthless. You're the strongest person I know." I didn't smile. I didn't cry. I just looked at him and said, "I know." That was my victory. My revenge. And when I finally walked out the door months later, suitcase in hand, I didn't look back. I had already built my new life. One where I was free. One where I was finally seen. So tell me, what would you do if the person who tore you down came crawling back, begging for help? For me, the lesson was clear. Never let someone else define your worth. Because one day, when the tables turn, you'll see just how powerful you really are.